Welcome to another edition of Operation Protect the White Boy, where today is more of an update because I talked about this person sometime last year. You may or may not remember him, but his name is Axel Cox, and he was the individual that put a cross in a black family's home, well, in their yard. Well, he actually put it in his yard, which I thought was kind of weird, and he set it on fire, which we all know is typical of the Klan to have done back during Jim Crow. They would take a cross, they would put it in a black person's yard and set it on fire. And this is what he did right here. Now, mind you, this guy's only 24 years old, and I think I spoke about this when I did the initial video on him. He's 24 years old. He was born nowhere near Jim Crow, but he knew enough to take a cross and burn it to intimidate a black family. But anyway, the reason why we're talking about him today and why he's ended up in this position of being on this playlist is because he was only sentenced to a mere 42 months in jail for the crime. Now, the math says that 42 months equals out to 3.5 years. So that means that he will be getting out, if he goes in today, he will be getting out when he's about 27. 27 getting ready to go on 28. What kind of punishment is that? I mean, we know what it is. It's not really a punishment at all. Now, if he should, deal with any kind of punishments while he's in there, then it is what it is. But with his mindset, he might find a crew to click up with. So he might be safe. Axel Cox, age 24, has been sentenced to 42 months in prison, followed by 3 years supervised release in order to pay $7,810 in restitution for burning a cross in his front yard in an attempt to intimidate a black family. So his legal troubles will be officially over when he's about 31. So he pretty much belongs to the state for damn near for the next 7 years, pretty much, if my math is right. And only has to pay $7,810. Like I said, the weirdest thing to me was that he burned the cross in his yard. Back then, they took the cross and burned it in the person's yard. That's why it confused me when I first heard about this story. The incident took place on December 3rd, 2020, according to court documents. Cox violated the Fair Housing Act when he used threatening and racially derogatory language towards his black neighbors and burned a cross to intimidate them. After a dispute with the family, Cox wedged 2 pieces of wood together to form a cross, placed it in a clear view of the family's residence, and doused it in oil and set flames to it, all while yelling threats and racial slurs towards the victim's house. Cox admitted that he lit the cross on fire because the victims were black and that he intended to scare them into moving out of the neighborhood. Mr. Axel Cox sought to intimidate members of the community through his intimidating threats, said FBI Special Agent Charge Jermica Formby of the FBI Jackson Field Office. The FBI prioritized the protection of civil rights to ensure citizens remain safe without fear of any harm. We remain committed to tirelessly thwarting the nefarious actions of those like Mr. Cox who intended to impact fear upon citizens based on biases. No one should endure such hatred and intimidation because of the color of his skin, said U.S. Attorney Darren LaMarca for the Southern District of Mississippi. This defendant has been held accountable, has he? Because like I told you, if we had a hate crime bill in the books, he would have got way more than 3.5 years. That's for damn sure. His sentence should permeate among his kind and declare that Mississippi and the Department of Justice will not tolerate this hateful behavior. But it won't. This right here is not going to stop someone else from doing something much more horrific. This is actually tame compared to what he possibly could have done, with him putting the cross in his yard and not putting it in their yard, or throwing some kind of a Molotov cocktail through their house and setting it on fire and potentially blowing it up. Assistant U.S. Attorney Andrea Cabell Jones for the Southern District of Mississippi and former trial attorney Noah Coakley II of the Civil Rights Division Criminal Section prosecuted the case. It's funny and interesting. I came across this update for this particular story because earlier today I actually saw a news clip where they were talking about the rise in white supremacy and everything like that. My thing is, why would you call it the rise? It's always been there. It's just the awareness is out there now thanks to social media, but it was always there. Even pre-social media, it was there. It has been there since white supremacy was a thing, or kicked off as a thing, which has been for hundreds and hundreds of years. And they talk about how there's this rise in white supremacy and, hatred towards black people, but they still don't want to do anything about it because it's easier and it's free to talk about the issue rather than actually tackling the issue. So what's to say that he's going to get out in 3.5 years when he's 27 years old, going on 28, that he's not going to try to do this again? Remember, he will still be in his 20s. No, he will be just getting into his 30s by the time all his legal issues are gone away. Because keep in mind, he's 24 now. He has 3.5 years. That's what, 27 going on 28. Then he's under supervised probation for the next 3 years after he gets out. He'll just be a little bit over 30. And by that time, he can continue going on with his life like nothing happened. What kind of punishment is that? That's not a real punishment at all. That's merely a slap on the wrist. But for people like him, he might feel that is a punishment, or maybe he feels like he shouldn't have been punished at all. All I can say is that black family that he was intimidating, luckily that he didn't go over to the house and actually launch something through the window. That could have really caused some damage. And that's probably another reason why he didn't get that much time, because he probably would have got more time if he put the cross actually on their lawn. But since he put it on his property, all the property he was destroying was his. And I remember in my video talking about him, I said, I wish that damn cross would have fell over in the direction of his home and set his house on fire. Now that would have been Triple P worthy. But unfortunately, I guess God had other plans.